Hello and welcome to another episode from the water's edge. You catch up with us at Weybread Fisheries, a short way into the session, and we've just hooked the first fish. In today's session we're fishing a method feeder. Now if anyone watches our channel and follows our videos, we have done a video on the method before, but in the height of summer, to some great effect. We had some really good fish that day. We're now into late October, nearly November, and conditions have changed, temperatures have plummeted, but there's a few subtle tweaks you can do to the rig to keep catching on the method feeder all year round. And in today's episode, hopefully that's what we'll be showing you. The changes that I've made personally in the last few months to the rig and also to the bait to keep fish coming. We'll just get this fish in and then we'll talk to you a bit more about what we're doing. Set the hook out, spins just caught in the net. There we are. Cracking little common, not the biggest, but that doesn't matter, it's just great to be catching fish all year round. Let's slip him back and we'll have a look in a bit more detail about the rig and the bait. Well, that was a great little start to the session. While we're at this point, it's a great point to have a look at the rig and the changes we've made for today's conditions. Now, the first thing you probably notice is my method feed has changed from the elasticated Preston version to the inline Drennan. Now, there's not really any particular reason for that. The only thing that I would say is I found myself having to change the elastic quite a bit in the months of it slaying dry and wet in your box. The elastic perishes. And all it is the inline version. I don't have to keep changing the elastic, so it's just a little bit of cost effective and it saves you a bit of time preparing stuff as well. The actual rig end is exactly the same. It's just a 4-inch hook link, 8-pound line with an MWG size 14 hook. Now above it is where it gets a little bit different. This time of year fish are a lot more shy than they are in summer, and you do find yourself struggling for bites most of the time if you don't really try and make everything as perfect as it can be. With that in mind, we've added 2 corded tungsten sinkers above the method feeder, and that's just going to keep this last metre where the method feeder lays all directly pinned to the bottom. And to even make that more emphasised, we've added a flying back lead, which is actually from Preston, the new Match Styles one. And this is all taken from a carp fishing. If you watch any carp DVD or any carp angler will tell you, the thing that they most take the time and effort and care on is getting everything pinned down to the bottom. So that is what I've tried to achieve on here, and with that in mind I think you can keep catching on this method all year round. We'll just quickly load this back up and have another chuck. Hopefully we'll see another fish on the bank, and then we'll also talk you through the change I've made to the bait, because as well as long as the rig, the bait has to be changed slightly as well. I'll just load this up and we'll get fishing again. Just staying with a little pellet this time. Still in the mould of the methods. Nice and simple. And we're ready for the next cast. Got a bit of an awkward cast with a tree above me. Just slightly to the side, gentle flick. And we're against the clip. I'll just get this settled. See if we can have another fish on the bank. Well, that's now settled nicely. Just another tip to remember, with the addition of your flying back lead and the 2 tungsten sinkers, don't have your tip with a real aggressive tight bend to your method feeder, because all that's going to do is to encourage the line to pick up in the water and make those 2 additions to your rig that's trying to help you catch more fish pretty much ineffective, because it's just going to be bowstring tight and the weight is not going to be heavy enough to pull it down. So my tip is just set with a tiny little bend in it, so if I do get a drop back I'm still going to see it, but there's enough there to make the line sit flat on the bottom, and that is really what I'm trying to achieve as it gets colder and colder. Another little bit about while we're waiting for get a bite, the reason I picked this peg, as you can see it gives me a bit of everything. I've got islands to my left, there's 2 different islands, a big expanse of open water, and then if I need to, I've got an island over to the right as well. So it does give me pretty much a little bit of everything in all aspects of fishing. Now with casts this time of year, I'm probably going to leave this 20 to 30 minutes, no worries at all. It does sometimes take a little bit of time for them to find this bait, and the last thing you want to do is pile in loads and loads of bait and ruin your chances from the start. So just be patient, sit on your hands a bit, and let's see what unfolds for this cast. Well, it's been out there for about 20 or 30 minutes. No joy in this cast. It's probably a good opportunity for me to wind in, put a fresh bait on, and talk to you a bit more about the bait changes we've made as well as the rig changes. Now, the first thing that needs to be mentioned is the difference between the baits in the summer and in the winter. Now, I'm personally a big believer, and I think most people are, in the summer months, and in our last video, it's just pellet, pellet, pellet. Everything loves pellet, and in the summer months I don't think you can beat it. Now this time of year I think it's much more about attracting the fish rather than feeding them. So with that in mind, actually what I've got, first of all, what I'm putting on my method feeder is just pure groundbait. Now again, there's not much feed particle in that at all, so that's what I'll be starting with, just to get an attraction into your peg, and the only thing they can eat is your hook bait. Now fishing in this day and age, you have to have pellet wherever. Now I know I just said in the summer months it's all pellet. In the winter you still need to bring it, but it gives you the option of either pellets or groundbait, or even a mixture of the both. You can put a bit of pellets in your groundbait and you can fish a combination. So basically it's just a case of working out what they want. Do they want a lot of feed? Do they want no feed? And that's the importance of the groundbait and the pellets separately. In addition to that, one thing that gets much more used in my fishing as it gets colder is a quarter goo. Now, I don't know if you've seen this before, but it's a great little additive for visual and smell as well. I've got all the flavours here. They do loads of flavours and colours. If you haven't seen it work before, I think you'll be a little bit impressed with this next clip. What I'll do is just bait this method up. Just put on the ground bait first. Now that would be what I would start on in most sessions in the winter. It's just pure ground bait, but throughout and out the session, as you learn more things, you need to change things. As your bites slow up or they quicken up, you need to adapt your fishing styles. And this is what I was saying about the goo. Now there's two forms of the goo. One is the bait smoke, which is a lighter form of it. I'll just put some of this on here. Now basically goo is 100% fish safe. Corda have tested this to the max and it's all come back approved 100% safe. And it is just basically a liquid attractant that goes fluoro when it hits the water. This second one I'm now putting on is the power smoke. The two I used were the almond flavour in a pinky colour. Now what I'll do is I'll just drop this down the edge so you can see the effectiveness of the goo when it hits the water, and you can see why what I'm saying about it's just smell instantly and visual to go with it. So I'll just drop this in the edge. The first thing you see is it puts a real big pink cloud right around your hook bait, and as the bait comes off you're going to get the power smoke will enter the top layers of the water, and the bait smoke, the more potent stuff, will sit there on your method feeder for much longer. So the two combined together really is a great way of fishing. But what I'll do is it's about time we had another chuck. I'll quickly load this up again. As I said, we're only early in the session, so I'm not going to use the goo yet. That's more if I'm looking for a bite or struggling. I'll be adding that later on in the session. So for now, it's just going to be neat ground bait, no pellets, and we'll just feel our way into the session, what works best for us and what puts more fish on the bank. So let's get this out there. Sink that line, don't move that method feed at all, and as I said, be careful with the bend in the rod. Very slight bend, and we're back out fishing again. See what happens on this cast. fish is on. Very, very delicate drop back bite that time. But I think that probably has something to do with how neatly the rig sits on the bottom. They really don't expect to see rigs that neat sitting on the bottom. They're really unexpected. Sometimes they bolt off of it due to the surprise, and sometimes I think they just sit there not quite working out what's going on, and that's what's happened there. It's just nodded his head and it's just dropped back ever so slowly. Don't think it's a massive fish, but it's certainly put up a good bit of fight. Water temperature now is starting to get much colder, so you do normally find they quieten down a little bit, but this one obviously hasn't read the script. He really is going for it underneath the rod tip. Just try and keep that slow pressure on. We weren't waiting too long for that bite, so that's what I was saying about, it's more about attracting them rather than feeding them. Get them in the area and your hook bait's the only thing they can eat. He's nearly ready. Well, there we are, he gave up in the end. Bigger fish than the first one. Try and slip that hook out. There we are, let's have a look at him. Nice big chunky mirror, full of energy. Not a single mark on him, cracking looking fish. Let's pop him back out there. We'll have another chuck, and perhaps this time we'll put the goo on and we'll show you how spectacular it looks when it hits the water. It really is something to behold. So let's pop this fish back and we'll get another rig out there. Well, that's another cracking fish on the bank. Now, as I said earlier, we need to feel our way into the session to how much bait they want, and so far that's 3 casts and I've had 2 fish off the same spot on the clipped up, so it almost indicates they want a little bit of bait. So to keep them guessing this time, we're going to load it up with pellets and we're going to include some pineapple goo. Now, I will switch this about all day long, changing from combinations, groundbait, pellets, colours of goo, flavours of goo, anything you can think of to keep these fish guessing. As well, in these cold months I probably will need to cast around my peg, but for now we've had 2 fish on the same spot. Looks like they want a bit of bait, so we're going to see if that's true. Exactly the same loading up, but this time with pellets. And I'm going to be using the pineapple goo, 2 again. One which is the bait smoke, the lighter one that's going to be in the upper layers of water, and the second one the thick power smoke, which is going to stay on that method feeder and really make them home in on the smell and the colour. So there it is loaded. I hope you can see this on camera when we chuck this out, because when this hits the water it really does look like toxic waste. It's something from outer space. So hopefully you can see it, and if you do get the goo, or if you use the goo, I'm sure people either side of you will be thinking, what on earth is he fishing over there? But it really does work sometimes, so it's a great bit of kit to have with you. Let's get this cast out. There's that explosion I was on about. Flicks up all the spray, is just luminescent green. You can see exactly why these fish can home in so much quicker than anything else. But we'll leave that for a while and see what happens. Well, that shows the awesome power of the goo. This cast has only been out 40 seconds to a minute probably, and the tip has absolutely flown round. It really never seems to amaze me how quick this stuff works sometimes. Not all the time, don't get me wrong, it's not going to catch you fish when there's no fish there, but it's certainly going to put an extra fish or 2 on the bank when others around you are struggling. So a great bit of kit to have, as well as all the other changes we've talked you through. It's already not long into the session and we're putting consistent fish on the bank, which isn't always the easiest task in the colder months. And there he is, he's ours. Let's have a quick look. Nicely in the side, full of life still, little common. Maybe 1.5 pounds, but a great bit of action. Let's get back out there. Now finally into the last fish of the session. I think it's about time to call it a day. Looks like it might start to rain. Nights pull in very quick this time of year, but it's been an awesome day. We've put a real steady run of fish together, kept them guessing all day, and I hope that watching this has give you a bit of confidence that the method does work all year round. You just need to work that little bit harder at it, and you should be putting fish on the bank as well. Nice little mirror to end with, I think. There he is, and he's ours. Slip this hook out. And there he is. Nice little rocket shaped carp, full of life, trying to jump back before his time. Bit camera shy. Ooh. There we are. I think we'll slip him back. He's given me enough indication he's ready to go home. And there we are. Right on cue, the heavens open. I think it's time we made a hasty retreat back to the car. Thanks for watching the latest episode. We hope to see you again on the next one.